To Live. This novel is the masterpiece of Yu Hua, a modern Chinese writer and a classic of contemporary Chinese literature. He is a contemporary Chinese writer and one of the most renowned authors who has received many literary awards. To Live is one of his most famous works and is regarded as a classic of contemporary Chinese literature. The book describes the historical changes in Chinese society from 1949 to the end of the 20th century from the perspective of a peasant, and through the life and death of this peasant, it presents the struggle of people and the fragility of life in the midst of the great changes of the times. The book is set in a rural area of China and spans several decades of historical change. Fugui is the main character of this story, a farmer who has experienced many hardships such as the Cultural Revolution and famine in China, but he always maintains his love for life and his sense of responsibility to his family, and through his own efforts and wisdom, he is able to live strongly. Fugui is an ordinary farmer living in mid-20th century China. Fugui's father was a landlord, and at a young age, Fugui was sold out to work as a laborer and lived a hard life. He experienced the Communist Civil War, the Great Leap Forward, the Cultural Revolution and other historical events, and finally returned home to find that his wife and daughter had died, leaving him with a mentally disabled son. After experiencing all the hardships of life, Fugui eventually survives. From a rich farmer to a destitute old man, Fugui has experienced many hardships, including the loss of his relatives, his property, and even his freedom. But in spite of all these calamities, he perseveres in his belief to live, and through his labor and wisdom, he is able to make a living and eventually obtain the salvation and freedom of his son. In Alive, we can see Yu Hua's exploration and depiction of life and death, humanity, and human feelings. Fugui experienced many deaths in his life. His parents, brothers, wife, son, etc., all passed away one after another, while he still lived and even saw his daughter grow up. Such life experiences make us feel deeply the fragility and preciousness of life, and also make us think about the meaning and value of life. In the face of death, Fugui also shows his humanity and human feelings, as he constantly remembers his deceased relatives, and his love and care for them are very real and deep. In addition, the book depicts the relationships and interactions between Fugui and others, thus revealing the complexity of human and social relationships. For example, after Fugui lost his family and property, he was sold and persecuted by his own son, a betrayal and cruelty that gives us a deeper understanding of the dark side of human nature. At the same time, when Fugui was suffering from this misfortune, there were many people who gave him help and support, and this bright side of humanity also made us feel care and love for others. Finally, we can also see the author's concern and critique of modern Chinese history and politics. The book depicts many details of war, political movements, and social unrest, which reveal the author's deep understanding and critique of modern Chinese history. At the same time, the book reveals the suffering and misery of China's peasants and poor classes during these turbulent times, giving us a deeper understanding of the complexities and inequities of Chinese society. The story of To Live spans a long period of time, from the 1920s to the end of the Cultural Revolution. The first half of the novel describes Fugui's life experiences as a young man, as well as his love and family life with his wife, Orchid. Fugui meets Lan Hua during a performance in a theater group, and they fall in love with each other and later become husband and wife. However, due to unfortunate circumstances, their marriage was not a happy one. Lan Hua had 7 children, but only 1 daughter and 1 son survived. Soon after, Lan Hua dies of an illness and Fugui loses most of his family fortune for various reasons. The second half of the novel depicts Fugui's encounters during the Great Era of Change. During the Cultural Revolution, Fugui's daughter marries a landlord's family and is branded a counter-revolutionary. Fugui also becomes a target because of his origin and experience. After going through various trials and tribulations, Fugui eventually returned to his hometown and made a living by selling tea and hunting. In the process, he also recognizes his son and helps him regain his life. Life and death are one of the themes of this book. Through the stories of Fugui and others, the novel reveals the fragility and preciousness of life. Fugui has experienced various trials in his life, including hunger, illness, and the death of his family, but he has always persevered in his life, maintaining his love and reverence for life. This reverence for life is also reflected at the end of the novel, where Fugui recalls his life by saying, "Life is bitter, death is more bitter, but I still want to live, and live better every day." Secondly, family and affection is another theme. In the novel, there is a deep bond and bonding between Fugui and his family, who care for and support each other and face the hardships of life together. Before he died, Fugui's father told him, "To live is to let you live." These words embody the responsibility and care between family members, as well as the interdependence and emotional ties between people. Finally, there are some symbolic elements in the book, such as cabbage and eggs. In the novel, cabbage and eggs represent the hope of life and the power of rebirth. Fugui's mother ate an egg and a piece of cabbage when she gave birth to him and hoped that he would grow up to be as healthy as these foods. After some hardships, Fugui returns home and discovers that a piece of cabbage and an egg can fetch a high price, symbolizing the value of life and hope for rebirth. The writing style of this novel is very simple and down to earth, but it is very touching. The author's delicate brushwork translates Fugui's life story and psychology into words, expressing his thoughts on life, and family. The book reflects the history and reality of Chinese society through the life of Fugui, an ordinary man, and presents the good and evil, sorrow and joy, love and hate in human nature, which is thought-provoking. The plot of the book is very touching, depicting the hardships and struggles that Fugui goes through in his life, from his childhood to adulthood, from his family to society, from his emotions to his psyche, all presenting the life experiences of a Chinese farmer. With simple language and delicate strokes, the author depicts Fugui's life journey and psychology, expressing his thoughts on life, and family, and touching the reader deeply. The book has also been adapted into a movie and a stage play and has received wide acclaim. It has been well received not only in China but also by readers around the world. If you want to understand modern Chinese literature and the history and reality of Chinese society, I highly recommend you to read Living. In conclusion, this novel takes life as its theme and reflects the historical changes in Chinese society from 1949 to the end of the 20th century and the struggles of people and the fragility of life through the life experiences of an ordinary farmer. With simple language and delicate strokes, the author depicts Fugui's life journey and psychology, and expresses his thoughts on life, and family, touching the reader deeply. This book also has much to teach us. It shows us the value of life and the strength of will. Fugui's perseverance in living through all kinds of hardships shows us the resilience and courage of life. At the same time, the book also makes us realize the impermanence of life and the mastery of destiny. Fugui has experienced various ups and downs in his life, but he has always maintained a love for life and a sense of responsibility to his family. His life story tells us that every moment of life is worth cherishing, and reminds us that we should cherish the present moment and make life more meaningful. To Live explores the eternal philosophical question of why people live. Yu Hua put it this way: living is the requirement of life itself, and it is also the most basic purpose of living people, not living for anything other than living. Fugui's wife, Jiachen, has a clear understanding of what it means to live. She told Fugui, "I don't know what blessing is, but I just want to make a new pair of shoes for you every year." Living is such a natural process. Like an old song, life tells us the truth about the fragility and strength, the joy and sorrow of a life, so that we know that a humble life contains a small but shining light like gold, so that we know that the warmth of human nature can step by step turn boundless suffering into the strength to continue to move forward. Overall, this book is not only a literary classic, but also a revelation about life and family. It shows us the beauty and sorrow of life and gives us a deeper understanding of the value of life. If you haven't read this book yet, I highly recommend you take the time to read it, and I believe it will inspire your life.